and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Komet, and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Pretty good. Good weekend. Kind of windy out there today. We actually got a chance to check out part of the Crowchild Classic, and I thought maybe we were going to get blown away.
Yeah, I mean, literally, because it was crazy. I thought the corner flags were going to come out of the ground, but one of the windier games I watched, and I've watched in a long time. And even though I thought I was well dressed for the weather, I still froze my butt off. So, but it was a good time. I'm excited to talk about that game as well as some of the other games that happened this weekend.
This is our weekend recap episode where we go over the Calgary-based teams and how they performed over the weekend. And yeah, we're going to talk about, there were a couple versions of the Crowchild Classic between the MRU Cougars and the Calgary Dinos. We'll talk about those matches. We'll talk about Cavalry in their last regular season match of the season against Vancouver FC. And we'll also talk about SAIT. They also finished off their regular season as well. So big regular season wrap-up episode.
It definitely is. Yeah, there's obviously still the postseason for all of these teams that we talk about tonight. But yeah, things are coming to a close pretty soon here.
If you want to count Cavalry, the Wild, and then the two teams each from SAIT, MRU, and the Dinos, of those 8 teams that we probably follow regularly, 7 of them are in the postseason.
Yeah, very strong fall for a lot of the Calgary-based teams that we talk about regularly. So excited to go over their final games of the season.
Let's start off this episode with a review of the Crowchild Classics.
Yeah, a little different than usual. Usually we talk about college and university soccer at the end of our episodes, but we thought we'd switch it up this time. And since we were both at the Dinos versus Cougars women's game this weekend, let's start with that one.
Hi, this is Bella Trico, and you are listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
As we mentioned before, Scott, the Dinos and Cougars played another edition of the Crowchild Classic women's division this afternoon. Windy day at Mount Royal, and it was a big victory for the Cougars today.
Yeah, this was a huge win for them. Not only did it secure second place in the final standings for the Cougars, which means that they get to host their first playoff game next weekend, but it also spoiled the Dinos' unbeaten regular season, right? They had come into this game with 11 wins, 2 draws, and 0 losses. So this is their sole blemish on their record. And yeah, I mean, for the crosstown rival to be the team that makes sure that you don't finish with an unbeaten record, which I don't know if the Dinos have ever done that before. That's got to be bitter, hey? I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow for the U of C.
You always want to go into the postseason, on a bit of a high, and that's not really happening for the Dinos. But for the Cougars, their big victory for them, they got the 3 points and secured themselves that home playoff berth. I think they're playing UBCO, right?
Cougars are, I believe, hosting UBCO, and then the Dinos, who, despite this loss, still finish in first place in the Prairie standings. They will host University of Victoria, which is the team that knocked them out of the Canada West Championship Final Four last year. So they'll definitely want to avenge that result. A lot of the players from last year are still with the team, of course. So, some big games for both of Calgary's teams coming up. But let's just mention the game itself today. I was at the whole thing, and I didn't get a great view of Danny Juarez's goal. It was shortly after the hour mark. I was at the far end of the pitch, but it looked like a breakaway and then a neat finish for her 4th goal of the season.
I showed up for some of the, maybe the last 20 minutes, and the Dinos were really pushing hard to try and get an equalizer. They just, they couldn't quite make it happen. Wasn't there one save there where the MRU keeper made the save and it deflected off the post? That was probably as close as I saw them come.
Yeah, I think it was a long distance shot that MRU's keeper saved onto the crossbar. But you're absolutely right. The Dinos were really pushing to try and salvage their unbeaten season in the last 10 or so minutes. And they came close on a couple of occasions. But, MRU, I think we got to give them kudos for really defending well. And honestly, for going toe-to-toe with the Dinos all game long. The Dinos, we know, are a really talented team, and they've been ranked, up there as one of the best teams in Canada all season. And they've really shown that. And the Dinos came to MRU probably hoping for a repeat of what happened in the last Crowchild Classic just over a week ago, where they won the game. But MRU refused, or they did bend, but they didn't break. Congrats to them for such a big win and for moving a spot up the table, because both of these teams were guaranteed to make the postseason regardless, but MRU had a big incentive to try and play for 3 points. And that's exactly what they did.
And after the match, we had an opportunity to meet up with Cougars head coach Tino Fusco, and also with Dinos head coach Diogo Raposo. Scott, we were able to get some audio from some of the questions you asked there.
Yeah, we don't often include interviews in our weekend recap episodes, but let's just run those quick post-game chats right now, and we can hear the coach's perspective on this one. Tino, congratulations on the win. I think this clinches second place for you guys. How does it feel to put one past the Dinos?
Well, it feels good to win the game. I think that's important. I think that was our ultimate goal here, and we wanted to finish second. That was our seasonal goal, is to host. And now we're into the playoffs. And the playoffs are windy days like this, and you never know what could happen. And we're going to play 90 minutes of football. I believe it's against UBCO, if I'm correct.
And you mentioned home field for the first game. How big is that for this team? Seems like you guys have been really strong here this season.
Yeah, we got a good core. We've had a couple injuries throughout the season, and we've had to manage that a little bit. But again, you got to give credit to the players. The players are the ones that play the matches, and they're the ones that are battling day in and day out, studying and preparing themselves to play in these matches. And again, we're excited. We're going to enjoy this, and then we're going to go off and prepare for our next opponent.
It was Danny Juarez scoring the lone goal of the game. I was actually on the other side of the pitch. I didn't get a great view of it, but it was a breakaway.
It was a through ball, and she was able to get in behind and then slide it through and past the goalkeeper, and it found its way into the goal, into the wind.
Yeah, that's 4 goals for her. So she's definitely been one of the key producers offensively for the Cougars this year.
Danny's been great. Again, Tamara's been fantastic. I know you had Bella on the podcast before, and it's really a team effort for us. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we don't necessarily have a superstar, but we have a collective group of quality people.
And in terms of a game plan today, can you speak about the approach and how you guys wanted to set up and play to nullify the Dinos, their strengths?
Yes. The ultimate goal, again, was to try to have the ball as much as we could. And into the wind, we had to make sure that we kept the ball low. And ultimately, again, that's what we tried to do. And we were able to score on one of those low shots.
Diogo, a tough defeat. Obviously, the only blemish of the season for the Dinos. How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, I think frustrated. I think if you look at chances on goal, we had tons. They had maybe one clean chance and they scored it. And that's the difference, especially when you get to playoffs. You have to put your chances in, and we didn't do that today. Obviously, we're managing we knew where we were in the table, so managing a bit of legs and some injuries too, and that's not to make excuses, but I think we lost a bit of flow that maybe first 10 minutes of the second half, which hurt us, right? They scored their goal in that moment.
In terms of, you guys still finished first, right? So do you know who you'll play next weekend, or I imagine you guys would be hosting?
Yeah, we're hosting UVic.
UVic at McMahon?
At McMahon, yeah.
Okay, all right. Is that a team that you've gotten to see much of this year? Or
no, obviously the divisions are split. We obviously saw UVic last year in the Final Four, and similar to today, I felt like when we left that game, we should have put our chances away last year. So we'll review film, we'll review our own, but UVic can prepare for the game.
Okay, let's talk about the Crowchild Classic, the men's edition. So on Saturday, the Cougars and Dinos men's teams wrapped up their regular season.
Well, earlier when these two teams faced each other, MRU won 4-0 at McMahon Stadium when the Dinos were the host. So MRU and the Dinos have been kind of neck and neck in the standings all season, but coming into this one with MRU at home and having beaten the Dinos so convincingly earlier this season, they would have definitely been the favorite. But great performance from the Dinos. They win 2-0 thanks to goals from Owen Antoniuk. I believe that's his 10th of the year. And then Kundai Tsiwa scored the other one. So 3 points and a clean sheet for the UFC.
Yeah, and as a result, both those teams ended up with the same record. They do this in Canada West, where it's basically a winning percentage as opposed to points. And anyway, they're exactly the same. And then I messed this up on our most recent episode. I said that it was the winner of the most recent result, and that was incorrect. I somehow misinterpreted that. But even though the Dinos won, the Cougars still get first place.
Yeah, which means that they will play Trinity Western to kick off their playoffs next week, and the Dinos will play University of the Fraser Valley.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's been exact times announced or anything yet. We'll delve into that in our episode later this week, and there's going to be some good matches for sure.
This is Kanija Elva, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So, Jason, Cavalry FC were in action in Langley on Saturday afternoon, facing Vancouver FC, the cellar dwellers of the CPL, but a team that Cavalry has really struggled with all season long, both in the league and in the cup. And that continued in this one. 2-2 draw with all of the action toward the end of the game. Unfortunately, Jason, like many Cavalry fans, I was not able to watch this game.
This whole one soccer, I don't really understand what's going on here. This is kind of a mess. The new commissioner of the CPL is known for getting everything going very well, for broadcasting the A-League down in Australia. I sure hope he can do something to help out with this. It's one thing to say you're having trouble reaching the masses, but these games were crazy that, like, even hardcore fans like us and some of the foot soldiers, like, we couldn't find this game to watch.
Yeah, and it's too bad because it looks like it was an exciting game, or at least the finish was exciting. A 2-2 draw with pretty much all of the action in the last 20 or so minutes, and with a 97th minute equalizer via a penalty kick from Vancouver. So they really spoiled Cavalry's day. Of course, it didn't end up mattering as Cavalry still finish in third. But let's just rattle off some of the action. Former podcast guest Nico Moroniuk scored a goal for Cavalry to kick things off. I believe Vancouver equalized, but then on the cusp of extra time, Kanija Elva thought that he won it for the Cavs with a tidy bottom corner left-footed drive after a really nice assist. I can't remember who got the assist, but it was a back heel. But then, of course, as mentioned, Vancouver earned a penalty basically in the 95th minute. And this was, the final minute of injury time. And it was David Norman Jr. who made no mistake against his former club, scoring in what at that point was the 97th minute, one of the last kicks of the game.
For whatever reasons, Cavalry just couldn't unlock Vancouver this year. It seemed kind of strange that would happen, but here we are. So another draw and kind of a weird game overall. I think it was pouring rain for most of it, from what I could tell. And there was nobody in the stands from the parts I saw as well. But anyway, I guess, it wraps up the regular season. And from what I did see a few chunks of the game. It looked like, Nico Moroniuk had a really, really strong game. I think he ended up being named player of the match. He's really been getting a lot of minutes the last little while here. So kudos to him, and regular season's over.
I got a lot of things to say about the regular season, Jason. I've compiled some stats and facts here that I thought we could kind of go over.
So, Scott, it's usually me that's doing the deep dive into all the numbers and all the other stuff. So kudos to you for doing it this time around.
I was looking at Cavalry's record, and I was like, really? They only won 11 games this season? And I kind of was curious how that compared to their history. And I kind of just went through the past, every season of the CPL up until this point. And yeah, I can definitely confirm that Cavalry, they finished with an 11-9-8 record. So 41 points with 47 goals for and 36 goals against. Jason, in almost every category, this is the worst regular season that Cavalry's had. Only 41 points. That's the lowest points total in their history. And with only 11 wins, that's the lowest number of wins in their history.
It ties them for their lowest result in the standings. Like in 2022, they were third, and here they're third as well. So from that standpoint, it's tied for the lowest place in the table they've been. But yeah, it's, I think by most metrics you would use, the season was not up to the numbers that it typically is.
No, I think usually they finish with 12 to 14 wins, like somewhere in that range. I think obviously in 2019 they were well above that, and I think in 2023 when they won the Shield last, I think they got 16 wins in that season. So I was wondering kind of what happened this year. And of course, if we kind of roll the tape back, we know that Cavalry went through a really slow start in April. And then in the summer, they also had a really bad slump that was like 7 or 8 games where they only got 1 win in like a 2-month stretch or something like that. There were a couple of clubs where they picked up what I would say is a pretty decent number of points. I think against Wanderers, I want to say, did they get 10 out of a possible 12 or 9 out of a possible 12? But if you think about it, they only picked up 6 points from a possible 12 in their matches against Vancouver FC, who only finished the season with 21 points. So Vancouver FC picked up more than a quarter of their points this season in games against Cavalry, believe it or not.
Yeah, there were a few teams that the Cavs seemed to struggle against. Like we know, it always seems like Ottawa is a bit of a bogey team for them. And Ottawa had a really strong season this year. So I'm not sure how many points they ended up getting against them throughout the year, but it wasn't a very high number overall. I know they got that one draw in Ottawa that felt like a loss, but they did get a point there.
I think that was their only point because Ottawa picked up 2 wins at Spruce Meadows this year. And then I remember that just a few weekends ago, Cavalry lost 3-0 at TD Place. So one point from a possible 12 against Ottawa. And against Forge, I think they did a bit better. I want to say they picked up 4 points against Forge this season, maybe 5 even.
Yeah, I think 5. I think they didn't they get they got a win and a draw here, and I think they got a draw in Hamilton, I think.
Right? Like way back, or was it like the first game of the season or something? But yeah, I mean, against Forge, they showed admirably, and against Wanderers, as mentioned. But yeah, I know they dropped points to Valor. They had a couple of drop points to Pacific, I think, who also had a really poor season this year. So kind of a weird one for Cavalry fans. And obviously, it doesn't matter too much if they repeat as the CPL playoff champions. I don't think people are going to care too much about the fact that the regular season was kind of a dud compared to usual. But I would add that they are heading into the playoffs without a win in their last 4 games, which is a bit of a concern for sure.
What's going to end up happening here, let's just project ahead. Like they're going to have to play the Wanderers or York at home this upcoming weekend. Let's just suggest that they're going to pull through that. Then they're going to have to, in whatever order, go into Hamilton and win, then go into Ottawa and win, or vice versa. So they've got to go into the home pitch of both those teams and pull off victories. So that will be a tall order, and especially against Ottawa, where they've had so little luck. Somehow it seems like against Forge, they've had, as you said, they've had some success, some level of success, but Ottawa's been a real tough one for them.
Yeah, especially with their road form in the last couple of months. That's something that Tommy Wheeldon Jr. highlighted not that long ago as being a real head scratcher as to why they were conceding so many goals on the road. And that contributed to what I also believe is their worst goals against record in their history. They conceded 36 goals against this year. I'm not sure how many shutouts they got, but I don't think it was as much as usual. They allowed 9 goals more this year than they did last year. So, their squad this year is probably the strongest it's ever been, but unfortunately they just didn't have the results to back that up.
Yeah. So I guess now, that record really doesn't matter at this point. It's the start of a new tournament, and I guess we'll have to see how it all plays out. One thing I did find out, because I was curious about this, and I don't know if you know the rules, and my finding out the details of tiebreakers is spotty at best after last week, but I was able to verify that Forge has the one spot for CONCACAF, as we know. What if Forge won the playoff championship as well? Who would get that second spot? And the answer to that is it would be Ottawa, because Ottawa finished second in the regular season. So it wouldn't matter, even from a Cavalry perspective, if they made it to the final and lost. That would not be enough for them to get into CONCACAF, if you're thinking about that. So I thought that was interesting. I was not aware, but it is on the CPL website. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I figured it would be whoever made the final. But cool, good to know. And yeah, that just it makes the odds even tougher for Cavalry to overcome. But if they want to get back into the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they're going to have to do it the hard way.
Hi, this is Natalie Gervitz, and you're listening to YYC Soccer Podcast.
all right, let's talk about ACAC and SAIT. The Trojans had 2 final matches this weekend. They played Lethbridge on Saturday and Medicine Hat on Sunday, and the Medicine Hat match did definitely have some standings implications.
Yeah, we know on the men's side that Medicine Hat were the only unbeaten team coming into this. They had beaten SAIT in Calgary earlier this season. So for SAIT to leapfrog them, they were going to have to win this one, right? And they did just that with a pretty emphatic 4-0 result. Robert Woodruff Brown getting a brace, his goals complemented by Hafiz Major and El Correa Hodolan.
So as a result, the SAIT men and Medicine Hat have a tied-up record at 9-1 atop of the South Division, but looks like based on tiebreaker stuff that SAIT will carry forward at first place.
And we kind of forgot to mention this one, but on Saturday, the SAIT men did play Lethbridge Polytechnic and won this one quite easily, 7-0. Pretty strong finish to the regular season for them with 11 goals for and no goals against in their last 2 games. And on the women's side, we saw them finish with 2 more wins to finish with a perfect 12-0 record. They beat Lethbridge 3-2 on Saturday, and then they beat Medicine Hat 1-0 on Sunday. Quite a close game for them.
I see here that you added in their goal differentials. That's crazy, isn't it? Like 57 goals for and 6 goals against?
Yeah, so a plus 51 goal differential. What more can you say about the SAIT women's team, right? They really just don't have, despite that last game just being a 1-0 win, they really don't have a decent competition in the South Division. But they're going to have to be at their best if they want to lift the ACAC championship with the playoffs coming up. Because if you look at the North, if you think about it, they're probably going to have to beat either Keano College, who finished first in the North, or the Nate Ooks, who finished second for to lift the trophy. So they're going to want to pick up their performance as much as they can for that one.
Yeah. And by the way, did you know where the ACAC provincial tournament is this year?
No, where is it?
In that hotbed of college soccer, Raymond.
Oh, cool. So they'll play on the turf football field then?
Yeah, that's a pretty beautiful facility. Yeah, but it's all that I thought is kind of strange that they're playing kind of like not even near a college anywhere. But anyway, yeah, I guess it is a pretty nice facilities. And so, yeah, that's where they're playing.
Cool. I've always wanted to go check that place out. Heard lots about it for like football games, but cool to see that they're using it for college soccer as well.
But when we were at the MRU game, we took a look at the new Cougars soccer field, and it looks pretty nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's only got soccer lines on it, which is pretty unique from a Calgary perspective. I think SAIT is like that, but for the most part, if you have a turf field, it's usually got lines for other sports as well. But yeah, it looks about game ready. I don't know if they'll be playing on it this playoff push or not, but it'll be pretty cool to see games happening there next year.
It's going to be the only field in the city that has soccer lines only and has any meaningful amount of seating. Because you're right about SAIT. SAIT's got, soccer lines only, but really there's no place to sit. Like there's really no seating to speak of.
Yeah, and MRU has kept it has that berm next to the pitch that it kind of created a bleachers in that probably fits like 300 or 400 people or something, so not more. So it'll be pretty great when it's finally ready.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there so you can buy Scott's book. It's called Here Come the Cavalry, and it's all about the history of pro soccer in Calgary. You can leave us a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media such as X, Instagram, Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.